Hello and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Maddie Paul. Inside the Newsroom, we bring you the stories that are trending across the Kelloland area, and we bring in our newsroom staff members to talk about their stories and how exactly they got to the point that they did when it was published. But first, we're going to start with our trending stories. Sioux Falls police are looking for a 28-year-old parolee wanted in connection with a shooting.
There's some discussion between them. They went outside. The woman went to a car. The two men went a little distance away, and then there was gunshots that happened, and the victim was shot in the leg.
Gallegos is listed as an active parolee after serving time in prison on meth charges. His arrest warrant is for 2 counts of aggravated assault. And up next, Sioux Falls police say they will start to deploy more officers downtown. This comes after the police department says it has seen an increase in disruptive behavior in downtown Sioux Falls. Officials say school resource officers will take on the duties of an extra police officer while school is out. And lately, some of the city park flowers and even plants have disappeared. While it may seem harmless, it could lead to consequences, like charges of vandalism. City officials say to help keep the city blooming, respect the plants and encourage others to do the same.
Be in nature and enjoy it. Leave it for the others. Let our entire community have a chance to enjoy all the hard work that goes into these things and the hours of care and maintenance that goes into these planter beds that our community has come to grow and expect year after year.
Big overall message is don't damage property that doesn't belong to you. So that would include plants.
Here's our next story. Spring Creek Golf Course in rural Harrisburg is now under new ownership and has some plans. Dan Grevlos, the general manager and new owner, says one of the first projects is to replace the bridge on hole 12. Future plans include new golf courts and an event center. Also staying outdoors, with emerald ash borer spreading across South Dakota, state officials expanded its pest quarantine control to a new county. Grant County joins 5 others in a firewood ban after emerald ash borer was found in Millbank. State officials said as far as firewood goes, buy it where you burn it to stop that infestation spread of that pest. And finally, a more than 100-year-old time capsule found in Hills, Minnesota is set to be opened. Demolition crews discovered this time capsule dating back to 1921 while they were tearing down the secondary school building on April 15th. The time capsule will be opened after the Friendship Day Parade that starts at 10:30 in the morning on Saturday, June 14th, coming up this weekend. And looking ahead for this entire week, you may be noticing and hearing about the potential rain and thunderstorm chances that are coming for Sioux Falls and the rest of the South Dakota area. We're bringing in a meteorologist after the break to talk a little bit about that potential forecast. Stick with us. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Now, by this time, you should know that I'm an 80s degree girl. I love the sunshine, but I might need to have all of that love on pause for a little bit because it looks like we're going to get some rain and possible thunderstorm chances in Sioux Falls over the next week. And joining me now is meteorologist Brian Karstens to give you the exact pinpoint locations of where that's going to be and what we're going to see. Because, Brian, I'm not going to really have my sun, am I?
Well, you get part of the day at least. If we can make it up to, let's say, 84, 85 by early afternoon, there's pretty good chances of that. But then after that, it gets more tricky because we've got showers, we've got thunderstorms, and then that's going to be part of the narrative really going into tonight and tomorrow. But as we've been saying on Kelloland this morning, not everybody's going to get wet in this particular situation. But you know, as always, we like to promote all of our tools. This is one of our live cameras from Platt. And it's kind of interesting when you look at the picture there. Do you see those little bubbly clouds in the background, the little cumulus? Yeah, they're kind of pretty, a little texture there. That gives us some visual clues that the atmosphere has a little destabilization, basically kind of bubble up the nature of those thunderstorms. And on radar, what we've been following basically all through the morning hours is this general area of scattered rain that's been taking shape out towards central South Dakota. Now, you can see on radar, for example, there around Chamberlain and a couple more spots. This is as of the 9 o'clock hour, just west of Huron. But I would encourage you to kind of keep an eye on that on your Storm Tracker app, especially if you're headed to the pool. I know our family did that yesterday, some of our family. And today, yeah, I know how summer goes, right? You want to find those places. So we're definitely warm enough. We're going to be in the low 80s, but just ahead of that line, that's where I would say southeast South Dakota, northwest Iowa. Let's keep watching that. And then here's kind of the bigger view overall, kind of showing that broken line running from Watertown down to Winters. So it's all kind of starting up this process of getting some zones of rain here in our forecast, not just today, but also again tomorrow. Temperatures are warming up. We're now 75 Sioux Falls at the 9 o'clock hour. And the Storm Prediction Center, they've kind of weighed in on this day as well. And there's a marginal risk of severe weather. So remember, when you see marginal or you hear us talk about marginal risk, that's the lowest level on the scale of rankings of severe weather. So it means a couple of severe thunderstorms are possible. Could see some hail with the stronger cells or some gusty winds, but we're not forecasting an outbreak of severe weather.
So it's not going to be widespread, you said. It's going to be pretty located, pretty central.
Right. And that's kind of the big key there, because obviously some days during the summer, we can get, really carried away into these bigger outbreaks, but this is not one of those days based on the parameters, what we're seeing here in the Storm Center. But when you look at this map here, you can see that dotted line, kind of the rain there from here on to winter, and then see how it moves east here.
Oh, yep.
Through noon. See, it gets up to the 80-degree mark, and even I would argue with this a little bit. I think we could get 84, 85 ahead of that. So right there.
That's what I like.
Yeah, and then look what we have, though. We've got this chance of a couple of those hot spots on the radar where those storms can get energized. And so whether that's right over Sioux Falls or, displaced a little bit to the north or northeast, I think there's still some debate on that. But the concept, the idea is there. So that's what I want to plant in your mind, that you kind of watch that on radar. Kind of let that slide east this evening, and then here we go again. Some new things bubbling up around the Sioux Falls area. Again, it'll be kind of a line, a broken line, kind of running east to west. And that's not all, because tomorrow we get another chance of rain coming in from western South Dakota. We kind of plant some of that north of Sioux Falls. So we get a big difference on weather tomorrow. If you're watching us around Yankton, hey, we're back to the 80s again tomorrow. Even Sioux Falls probably a shot that we get close to that mark. But Aberdeen, Watertown, Sisseton, rain chance looks pretty good, and those highs are in the 60s tomorrow. Wow. So that's not a pool day there. But just remember, it's summer and it'll change again. Notice where the rain goes too. A lot of the bigger rain signals are in northeast South Dakota for Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. I'm not saying Sioux Falls, we're definitely in the chance of rain. But we're kind of dealing with scattered thunderstorms. So that's kind of the nature of that. And then the whole thing pulls east. So your weekend, keep your plans. I'm not telling people to cancel things because we're not looking at widespread rain. But what I would say is that we're going to be watching a few periods of showers and thunderstorms, trying to reorganize in western South Dakota Friday night, and then getting into Saturday and Sunday. There'll be a little more of that. And one more note, humidity. Ooh. If anybody likes that, I know my tomatoes do and all the garden plants. We're going to get into a quite a stretch of humid weather. Next week, we're looking at dew points at least in the 60s. That feels tropical. You get to 70, you really feel it. So you'll be hearing about that subject, I'm sure, here in the next few days as well.
This reminds me a lot of last June, Brian, where it was pretty warm or cool in the springtime, and then June hit, and all of a sudden we just get all of this rain coming in. Are we seeing the same amount of inches this year compared to last?
Well, that June had, of course, blockbuster rain, so that third week of June when we had all that flooding. At this point, we're not looking at that much rain, obviously, but I would caution you that even the possibility of getting some local flash flooding. We talked on KELOLAND this morning about the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. And basically, you look at the parameters and how the water's stacked in the air. And, it's going up. It definitely goes up normally this time of year. We expect into mid-June that You're going to just start to see that rich humidity making its presence known. So always be aware of that you definitely want to take those warnings seriously. If we do get some downpours tonight, even tomorrow, even next week, I think that's just a general thing to think about as we get into the forecast.
Brian, thank you so much for coming on and giving us a quick weather update. Really appreciate your time. And still to come on Inside the Newsroom, we are bringing in a newsroom staff to talk about one of their stories. Stick around. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. One story that KELOLAND has been tracking for quite some time now is where will construction be in South Dakota for a new men's prison. We recently did an updated story on this subject with our reporter, Sydney Hoyer, who was looking at one group that was opposing some sites and how the prison task force had reacted. Sydney, thank you for joining me at the digital desk.
Hi, Maddie. How are you?
I'm really good. Thanks for asking. So, Sydney, can you give a little background into what is the update with the prison task force and this overall conversation about a prison construction?
Yeah, so at the last task force meeting last week, they kind of settled on a budget of about $600 million. Now, lawmakers aren't sure that that's going to be enough, but for now, they need the legislature to pass that. So that's what they're going with. And now we're also left with a few site options, and those include Worthing, Mitchell, and then any of our current prison sites in the state.
So basically, our top three is those, the Worthing, the Mitchell, and then those existing prison sites. And in your story, you were specifically looking at reaction to all of these potential sites. Can you tell us, what is the group NOPE?
Yeah, so NOPE is Neighbors Opposing Prison Expansion. And they were originally against the site that was in Lincoln County near Canton. And as time has gone on, they have also opposed most of those Lincoln County sites, including the Worthing site. Now, they also spoke out against Mitchell, actually, so their main goal is just to use our current prison sites and expand upon those.
Did you, as you were researching this, especially with the NOPE reaction, did they give any reasons why they wanted specifically these pre-existing sites? What sticks out for them?
They really mentioned the budget a lot, so saying that money could be used elsewhere and that buying new land, that would just waste a lot of taxpayer dollars.
And then you also talked to some prison task force members. So what did they have to say?
So they actually previously killed that Canton site, but they are thinking that it might be a good idea to bring it back since the DOC already owns that site, and they spent around $60 million on that. So they're actually saying that not using that site could also be a waste of taxpayer dollars.
Sydney, this is so much information that you've compiled into one story on a daily turnaround. When you have a story like this where you're taking so many elements and so much progress that has happened over time, what does your brain go through and how do you like to condense this information, especially when it is so heavy and so important for our state?
Yeah, so first I just kind of find a focus for because there are so many topics, you kind of got to pick one thing to focus on there. And so in this case, it was the reaction from that NOPE group and just kind of what the task force members are thinking about that reaction and how they feel being on that task force versus how these neighbors feel about a prison being near them.
And how do you find yourself connecting to the story, especially when like this? What little elements do you like to grab onto?
I don't know. I guess living in Sioux Falls my whole life, it's like these are areas that I'm pretty familiar with. So just kind of seeing people's differing opinions is really interesting going through this. And I'm not certain on what my opinion is because I don't know all of the information that these people know. So kind of getting to hear this information that I hadn't heard before is really fun.
And what is something that you hope viewers understand through this updated article that you had talking with the NOPE group and then talking with the prison task force members? What do you want viewers to cling on to with your story?
I think that it's important to know that nothing is certain yet, that there is no final decision, and that even though some of those sites were previously off the table, task force members are saying that things could come back. So nothing is really certain. There's just the budget is essentially the only thing that we have settled upon.
And so do you know what the next steps are at this point for the prison task force or for this potential construction?
I'm not really certain yet. I think that, more meetings have to happen and just more discussion and decisions need to be made first.
And then is there anything else you'd like to share about your story or how you created it?
I mean, there's have been a lot of stories previously on this that helped it get to this point that I hadn't actually reported on Nope before. So using those other reporters' stories and then even video, we had one of our digital reporters go to some of those sites. And so it's interesting you get to use a lot of other people's stories and kind of to learn the topic before you report on it.
A great point. Thank you so much, Sydney, for coming to the digital desk to talk about this subject. And as Sydney said, we have lots of stories about this online. So make sure that you check it out by going to our website, kelloland.com. And we will be right back after the break. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Now, earlier in the show, we were talking about the Spring Creek Golf Course making some renovations and finally getting its new buyer. We're going to still talk about golf now. Now, me, myself, I am not a golfer, a putter. I'm not sure exactly what you would call it. So Killiland digital reporter Gracie Terrell is joining us because now she should be a golf expert, right, Gracie?
Oh boy, almost. Not really. I wouldn't
Almost
call
a golf
myself that.
expert. Gracie, you did a story yesterday, and it was talking about how we're seeing a bigger trend about female golfers in South Dakota. Now, it's just not South Dakota, right? This is on a national scale. Am I correct?
Yeah, it is. There was a report that came out from the National Golf Foundation that said that since 2019, since COVID, female golfers have been made up like 60% of the growth on in-course golf courses. And just like within in 2024, they made up of 24%. So a wide or 28%. Sorry. So an increase in female golfers definitely over the last few years.
Wow. And who did you speak to yesterday for your story?
I talked with the pro golfer at the Keene Park Golf Course here in Sioux Falls. He's kind of helped run a We Sioux Women's League for the past few years, so I got a lot of information from him. And then I also talked to 3 lovely ladies who have been golfing for the past couple of years, so it was fun to hear from them too.
What was their experience like with golf?
Yeah, they it said they kind of started about 6-7 years ago, so right around when that trend started to pick up. They were older, wanted to do something in their retirement, so their husbands had kind of gotten into it, but they wanted to do, something a little bit more low stakes. So the We Sioux League here in Sioux Falls was kind of the perfect spot for them. It's a rec league, social league, so it's not super competitive. And it's 2 days a week that Keene Park is ladies only after 2 p.m.
So did they convert you? Are you going to be golfing now?
Oh man, I don't know. It did look quite fun. It looked quite fun. But I've done the like on the driving ranges before, and that was fun. But I don't know if I can manage to get the ball in the hole.
No, I feel the same way. I have like no hand-eye coordination, so I think I need your 3 ladies to show me how it's done. But you got some video for your story yesterday when it went on the newscast, when it was broadcasted, and you and I are digital reporters. So our workload looks a little bit different from regular broadcast reporters. Can you explain a little bit of some of those differences?
Yeah, so I was looking more for just to talk with these ladies, and it was less visual since my story, what goes on air, is only about 30, 45 seconds, less than that for the clip of, anyone talking. So I was looking for just some quick video of them doing their stuff out there, and then I kind of bring it back and make just a short VOSOT. So I have just about 20-30 seconds of kind of just them out there, B-roll, putting around, I think are the right words. And then another clip of one of the ladies talking, a good quote that I had from her. So that was what was on air. But then my story online went into a little bit more in depth with those numbers and stuff. And that's kind of the difference there with, the broadcast and the digital people and I was able to use my phone when I was out there to shoot too. So, a different vibe, a TV reporter could have done the story and it would have looked a lot different. But yeah, that's kind of how it ended up, getting to air and getting to online yesterday.
So do you find any challenges when you incorporate videos such as this on the screen now? I mean, it looks like great video putting together, especially since you said it came off of your phone. Do you love incorporating these types of elements for your story, or do you really like to stick to that print format?
I do. I like to get out when I'm out there and get, some good video. It can be kind of a challenge with, the equipment that we have. Since it's just with our phones, there's a limitation on how, close you can zoom in and everything. So I have to be kind of far away and zoom in, and maybe it might not, look as crisp and clean as some other video here. But I do like to get out and talk with, people and get video. But sometimes I do find myself just wanting to chat with them and have longer conversations that aren't necessarily on camera, and kind of use that more organic, less, manufactured answers that they might be trying to give on air. Because after I cut the cameras, we were just kind of chatting when I was trying to film them and stuff, and I was able to get some other good, quotes that they had and interesting things to add to the story that might not have been there if I was just, recording on camera the whole time.
Yeah, that comfortability really comes through with interviewees. I've seen the same thing when I've been talking to people. It's like the cameras come on and all of a sudden it's like a little frozen, a little stiff. But cameras, they can be a little scary. But I think even like right now, Gracie, we're in front of cameras and we're kind of pros at this, would you say?
Yeah.
It's always different.
Yeah, it's different, especially when someone's not used to the camera. And they're just wasn't used to us. It wasn't, planning on getting interviewed either, too, because that was kind of just, they were there to golf. But it was nice to be able to chat with them, and they had a lot of interesting insights on that, too. So, that kind of man on the street, kind of just reaching out to people, too, is definitely a different way to report.
Yeah, we do it a lot here at Kello. And is there anything else that you would like to share about this story, or anything that you would really want viewers to connect with your story?
Well, I mean, this story kind of came about, it was actually an intern's pitch. So just kind of a shout out to our interns there. She had seen a story in Golf Digest, I think, about the increase in female golfers. And then that just kind of, went with it. And, I did research. I reached out to see if the trends were similar here in Sioux Falls. So, kind of localizing those bigger national stories. Shout out to our interns, too. But, yeah, it was a fun time. I got to dress up a little bit yesterday and wear a little golf outfit when I went out, and because it was kind of warm out. So
it was so warm, 80
yes.
degrees. You got so lucky to get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me at the digital
course.
desk, Gracie, to talk about this. And one last thing to talk about here inside the newsroom. I promise that there is a dress code that we follow at Kelloland, but today is a very special day. Every 11th of the month, we are allowed to wear our Captain 11 shirts. And that's what I'm wearing right now. Maybe I can stand a little so I could show it off a bit. Captain 11 shirts. If you haven't seen Captain 11, we air it on Kelloland Plus, and you can see a full programming schedule on our website to see all of your favorite clips of Captain 11. Also, there's a section that we have on our website that talks about Captain 11 as well, if you're interested in looking more into something like that. But yeah, that's a little tip of the newsroom. We show off our pride for Captain 11 by wearing shirts every 11th of the month, which I think just makes for a lot of fun inside the newsroom when we are looking to collaborate together, to come together and do something kind of unifying us all together. Thank you so much for watching Inside the Newsroom today. We'll have more content as the days progress. And again, have a great day, everyone.